We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Menachos. This is Menachos Daf 103a. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said that if an individual says Zu b'machvas, this flour I'm going to bring as a karban mincha in a machvas, and then he brings it in a marcheshes, then it's psula, it's disqualified, and the reverse as well. And now Abaye says this is only true ela shekavan b'shas neder, where he says it's going to be in the machvas at the time of the oath. Rashi explains, Elisha Koven b'shas neder, he says it at the time of the oath, Harei olai lohavi es zu b'machvas, he says it's upon me to bring this in a machavas. That's when it's disqualified if he doesn't follow through. Aval b'shas afrosha, but if it's at the time of the designation, so then we would not say it's disqualified. And Rashi explains, Aval b'shas afrosha means, the b'shas neder, at the time of the neder when he made the oath, Amar harei olai mincha stam, he just said it's upon me to bring a mincha. He didn't specify what kind of vessel. Uveshas hafrosha kava, but then when he separated the flour, he established v'yamar. He said, "Zu avi l'shem neder b'machavas." This I'm going to bring to fulfill my neder, and I'm going to bring it in the machavas. So in that situation, it will not be disqualified. B'shas hafrosha lo, then it's not disqualified. And why is that? Because kasher nadarta v'lo kasher ifrashta. It says you have to do as you made the vow, as you made in your oath. So therefore, at the time of the neder, that's when there's going to be problems if you don't follow through, but we don't go by the time of the hafrasha. And the Gemara continues, Itmar Nami was stated as well, Amar Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, Amar Rabasi. Rabbi Acha bar Chanina says, Rabasi says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo shanu ela shekavan b'shas neder, it's only disqualified if he established it at the time of the oath, Aval b'shas hafrasha, but at the time of the designation, lo, then it's not going to be disqualified, kasher nadarta, because again the pasuk says kasher nadarta, v'lo kasher hifrashta, and not as you designated. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Ha'omer harei olai mincha min hasa'orim. If somebody says it's upon me to bring a mincha from barley, this would be an example where one makes a vow to bring a voluntary mincha, but that's an invalid criteria. So yavi min hachitim, then he brings the karban mincha from chitim, from wheat. Kemach, let's say he says he's going to bring it from regular flour, yavi soles, he should bring it from fine flour. Below shemen uvelo levona, let's say he says he's going to bring it without oil and without levona, without frankincense, yavi shemen ulevona. So then he must bring it with oil and levona. Chatzi isaron, if he says he's going to bring a half isaron, yavi isaron shalim, he must bring a full isaron. Isaron umechsef, if he says he's going to bring an isaron and a half, yavi shnayim, then he must bring two. The Mishnah continues, Rabbi Shimon says that in these cases, he's actually potter, he's exempt, he doesn't have to bring anything on the basis of such declarations, shelo hisnadev kederech hamisnadvin, because in all of these cases, he did not donate in the manner of those who donate. And the Gemara says, Amai, why is it that the Tanna Kama says, for example, if he says he's going to bring a mincha from barley, then he has to bring a mincha from chitin? Why is that true? Neder upischo imohu, isn't this a case of a neder accompanied by the opening, essentially an opening for release of the neder? He's essentially saying that this is not a real neder. Rashi explains, why is he obligated to bring from wheat? Neder upischo imohu, isn't this a case of a neder with the opening? Im ha-neder amar pesach, with the neder, he says an opening to get out of it. Shemischaredbo, essentially he regretted it. The kaven damar min hasaorim, since he says from barley, amrinan dein b'daito lahavi klum, so we say really he has no intention to bring anything. The adam yodei shein mincha min hasaorim, a person knows that there's no such thing as a mincha from saorim. And the Gemara says, Amar Chizkiah says, Hamoni, who is the author of the Tanna Kama of our Mishnah, Beis Shammai, it's actually following Beis Shammai, the Amri, that they say, Tefos Lashon Rishon, you follow the first part of the phrase. Rashi explains, Tefos Lashon Rishon, V'keven Da'amar Harei Olai Mincha, since he said it's upon me to bring a mincha, Ichayiv b'mincha hogenes, so with that phrase, that beginning phrase alone, he's obligated to bring a proper mincha, because again, the Mishnah is following Beis Shammai. And the Gemara continues, D'Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Hareini Nazir min ha-grogros min ha-develo. Let's say a person says, this is a Mishnah in Meseches Nazir, he says, I'm a Nazir, but then he says, I'm a Nazir min ha-grogros min ha-develo. Now, a Nazir, in general, is abstaining from grapes, he's abstaining from wine. But here the person says that he's a Nazir, and he's from dried figs and from pressed figs. So is he a Nazir or not? And so the Mishnah says, Beis Shammai Omrim, Beis Shammai say Nazir, he is a Nazir in such a case, because again, Tefos Lashon Rishon. Uveis Hillel Omrim Eino Nazir, and Beis Hillel say that in such a case he is not a Nazir. And Rashi explains, grogros udevela, again he says grogros and devela, lo shaycha b'hu nazirus, nazirus is not relevant to grogros and devela, so harei ze nazir, he is a nazir min hayayin, from wine, the tfos lashon rishon, because again according to Beis Shammai, we say tfos lashon rishon, and so therefore the Mishnah is following Beis Shammai. And the Gemara continues with another approach to the Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan says, afilu tema Beis Hillel, one can even say that our Mishnah is like Beis Hillel. But Omer, the cases where he says, ilu hayisi yodeya she'ein nodrin kach, had I known that one doesn't make a neder like this, lo hayisi nodr kach, I wouldn't have made the neder like this, ela kach, rather, I would have made it in a different way, I would have made it in the proper way. And Rabbeinu Gershom explains, afilu tema Beis Hillel, we can even say our Mishnah is Beis Hillel, v'amai yavi menachitin, so why does he have to bring the karban mincha from wheat? But Omer, it's when he says, ilu hayisi yodeya she'ein nodrin kach, had I known that this is not a proper neder min hasorim from barley, I didn't realize that, but had I known, lo hayisi nodr kach, I wouldn't have made the neder in that fashion, elakach, rather I would have made it in the proper way, min hachitin, from wheat, to lo hayadaiti elal mincha ruya. Here he's essentially saying that really he did have intention to bring a proper karban mincha. And the Gemara continues, Amar Chizkiah says, Lo shanu ela da'amra mincha min hasorim. When the Mishnah says that he must bring a mincha from wheat, that's only in a situation where he said he's going to bring a mincha from barley. Now here it seems like Chizkiah is really following Rabbi Yochanan. Chizkiah is saying, by a situation of a mincha from barley, it could be he genuinely thought there's such a thing as a mincha from barley, and therefore since he thought that what he really meant was he's going to bring a proper mincha. Aval Omar mincha min ha'adashim, but let's say for example he says he's going to bring a mincha from lentils. Everybody knows there's no such thing as a mincha from lentils. There it certainly is a Pesach of Charot, it's an opening for release, so then then he's not obligated to bring a mincha of chitin. And so the Gemara asks, Michti, let us see. Chizkiah kaman amar l'shmaite ke Beis Shammai. Chizkiah said that the Mishnah follows Beis Shammai. Chizkiah did not agree with Rabbi Yochanan. Chizkiah said the explanation of the Mishnah was Tfos Lashon Rishon. Beis Shammai misham Tfos Lashon Rishon. And as we said, Beis Shammai simply follow the first part of the phrase. So if that's the case, what difference does it make what the end part of the phrase is? Mali min hasorin, mali min ha'adoshim. What difference does it make if it's min hasorin or min ha'adoshim? And the Gemara says, Hadarbe, the Gemara says that's actually correct. And really Chizkiah retracted. Chizkiah really agrees with Rabbi Yochanan. The Mishnah is not following Beis Shammai. And the Gemara says, my time Hadarbe. Now what is the reason why Chizkiah retracted his explanation of the Mishnah? Amar Rava said, Mas Nisan Kashisa, because he was bothered by the Mishnah itself. It was difficult. My irya detani mincha min hasorim. Why is it that the Mishnah has a case of mincha from barley? Listening minhu adoshim, you should have had a case of minhu adoshim if it all has to do with tfos lashon rishon. So bring the stronger case, a case of lentils. Elashma mina, rather the fact that the Mishnah specifically brings a case of saorim mishum de toihu. It's because he's making a mistake. Besaorim toy, and people might make a mistake by barley. But adoshim lo toy, but there's no mistake by lentils. By lentils we say it really is a pesach of charata. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, now Rabbi Yochanan says afilu minhu adoshim. Actually, even from lentils, even in a situation where he says he's going to bring a mincha from lentils, he is obligated to bring a mincha of wheat. The Gemara now asks on Rabbi Yochanan, Michti, let us see. Rabbi Yochanan can man amra l'shmaite. Beis Hillel, Rabbi Yochanan, who does he say the Mishnah follows? It follows Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel mishum de toy hu b'saorin, toy ba'adashim lo toy. And according to Beis Hillel, it's because de toy hu, it's because he makes a mistake. Again, b'saorin toy ba'adashim lo toy. People make a mistake by barley, they wouldn't make a mistake by adashim. There really should be a distinction between saorin and adashim, if that's how we're explaining the Mishnah. And the Gemara says, L'devorav de Chizkiah ka'amar le. Really, Rabbi Yochanan was not making this statement in his own opinion, because Rabbi Yochanan actually certainly would make a distinction between saorim and adashim. But Rabbi Yochanan was speaking to Chizkiah. At my time hadartbach, what's the reason why you're retracting? Mishum delo katani minhu adashim. You're trying to retract because it doesn't say minhu adashim. So you said, why is it that it's choosing one case, not the other? Therefore, it must be just by saorim and not by adashim. But Dilma, maybe the way to understand the Mishnah is as follows. Lomi boy kamer, it's a lomi boy. Lomi boy means the Mishnah is structured as a not only in this case, but even in that case. Lomi boy min hadashim, we don't even need to say in a case of min hadashim. The ikol meimar mahader hu the hadar bay utvos lashon rishon. Over there's a possibility that he is retracting and tefos lashon rishon. Ela afilu min asorin, but even in a case of saorin, nami, also in that case, the ikol meimar mitahu the katay, where it's possible that he's making a mistake, and therefore, since it's possible he's making a mistake, maybe actually he doesn't bring anything anything at all. Afilu hachi tfos lashon rishon. Nevertheless, we say tfos lashon rishon. And Rashi explains the possible lomi boy at my time hadart bach. Rabbi Yochanan says to Chizkiah, why are you retracting? Meaning lididach ikol litrutzai. Actually, the whole reason you're retracting is not a great reason. It's very possible that there is a reason why we're choosing Sa'orim, even if it's Tvos Lashon Rishon. Why? The Lomi Boy Kamar, because the Mishnah is structured as a Lomi Boy. Lomi Boy Adoshim. We don't even need to say a case of Adoshim. There, for sure, the person is chayiv to bring wheat. The Kavan, the Kaimel, and Tvos Lashon Rishon, since the halach is we follow the first part of the phrase, the chayiv, that therefore for sure he's chayiv. Why? The Kavan, the Loto Behu Inchi, since people are certainly not making a mistake about Adoshim, everybody knows Adoshim is not a mincha. Equal Meimar, one can say Meikara ki Amar lemincha gemurei chavin. So now Tvos Lashon Rishon. He started out, he certainly was going to bring a mincha. Uval leMahader Bey, and what he wanted to do was to retract, which you can't simply change your mind. V'savar, he thought to himself, Eima midi delo chazi lahakrava. Let me say something that's not fit for hakrava at all. It can't even be offered. V'nakar Adoshim, and so therefore he chooses Adoshim. So Hilka chayiv, therefore it's obvious chayiv in that case. Delo matzi Mahader Bey, because retraction is not an option. Avol Sa'orim, but by barley. The equal Meimar Kavan the Tobu Inchi, there might legitimately be a mistake. So Ema Meikar Lav Lamincha Chavin, Elul Mincha Sorim Amish. There already we could say forget Tvos Lashon Rishon. Maybe he really did want to bring a Mincha Sorim, Kidafarish as he said. The Kavan Dain Mincha Bo Sorim, and since you can't have a Mincha of Sorim, Lifter, there actually is an argument not to apply Tvos Lashon Rishon and say Potter. The Vadi Matzi Yomar Ilu Hayisi Yodeya, the Sofi Lohavi Chitim Lo Hayisi Noder Kalikar. Because you can certainly say, he would say that if I had known that I was going to bring Chitim, I wouldn't have ever made this neder at all. And so Kamash Malon, that's why the Mishnah is teaching, even in this case, we say Tvos Lashon Rishon. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says Chizkiah really could have argued, and therefore, again, that itself is not a reason to retract, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Beis.